Hey, so as promised, I've been trying to make sure that I've been posting some videos a little bit more regularly than normal, and wanted to give you a quick update before I get into the topic that I started to do the writing on the platform medium.com. So if anyone's interested in are into reading, I am going to start putting the links in the description in order for you guys to take a peek, see what you think. It's going to be a little bit different than the straight INTJ type of forum, but because we are INTJs, I feel that there's a lot of potential regarding those types of articles as well. So diving in, I today am going to pick the topic of INTJs and loneliness. So a couple things that I wanted to really bring forward is for us, we are not typical lonely people when it comes to the archetype of what a lonely person is, where we need to be around people in order to have our love tank filled, or we have to have that stimulation in order to make sure that we are relevant and all along those lines. We're actually pretty much the opposite, where we need so much decompression that we almost isolate ourselves. And I'd love to hear your comments for the viewers. But for myself, that is my wheelhouse. I need that time to decompress and be on my own and really make sense of what's going on with my day-to-day life and the overextended stimuli that comes in. Sorry, I'm going to read my notes again, as always, but there is a huge difference between being alone and being lonely. And I think that's really difficult for us INTJs, because loneliness is actually ascribed to a feeling, an emotion, and so we have a double disconnect on how to make sense of this feeling when we actually do like being alone, but there comes a certain time, and it's easy to go and put it into a certain quip in a paragraph about how, oh yes, we are alone until we decide to, or we get lonely and then we go reach out. It's more, I feel, more complicated than that. And for myself, obviously, this is just speaking from my own experience. So for example, on my end, I love to be on my own, and I love to be in my own company. And it did actually take me a little bit longer to really absorb what that meant for me, because the social stimulus of going through your 20s and 30s was, well, you shouldn't want to be alone. You should want to be with people. Why aren't you going out? And therefore there was that disconnect. As I got older, you realize you don't have that. And I have to say, for an INTJ, I would argue that we don't have a fear of missing out. That is not something that is part of our world in the way that it is for the fact that it is now FOMO. It's like that just speaks to what the majority of folks out there perceive. And I feel that we don't have that because we have such a dialogue going on in our own minds, and we're absorbing a lot of other information other than worried about what other people are doing. So I feel that the one main argument that I want to throw out there is, for us, let's think about being INTJs. What is super important? For myself, it is autonomy. It is making sense of the world, having the freedom to make sense of the world. So I feel that loneliness is almost a loss of choice. So loneliness doesn't mean necessarily you need someone else in your existence, regardless of whether or not you're wanting to actually be attached to them in order to make your situation more enriched. What the situation is potentially the lack of choice. So if you are deciding to go and you want to go and reach out and do different things, or the opposite, you need to be alone, the loneliness is something that is caused by the infliction of whether or not choices are being able to be made, that autonomous choice. And that is something that's difficult because we, as society, we want to be part of a group. Technically, as humans, we want to belong and feed off people. And I 100% agree with that in the way that, yes, we are social beings. However, we're just kind of fitting a different type of prototype for that model. So one thing I wanted to actually kind of wrap things up with is what I read about the definition of loneliness. So number one is affected with, characterized by, or causing a depressing feeling of being alone. So I have to say, we might feel that internally at times, and we don't necessarily know why, or we do know why, that we have been isolating. For myself, an example would be I can isolate myself quite easily, and it's almost like I have to pull my head up and realize I haven't seen people for a while and I should reach out. That part isn't lonely because that's still saying I should reach out. What I notice is that it's almost like cabin fever, where it's like, okay, I need to reach out. I want to reach out. And so that does have a certain type of unique standpoint as opposed to potentially other people, the majority of, say, society. Number two, destitute or sympathetic or friendly companionship or support. So they're saying you don't have folks that are sympathetic or companions or supportive. And I have to say that is something that really resonates with me as an INTJ. We're already difficult enough on ourselves to make sense of ourselves. We already have some barriers when it comes to forming strong relationships because we don't fit the stereotype. But on top of it, regardless, we still crave at some point someone that can go on our journey with us in some capacity. And that one really, really hits the spot when it comes to speaking to the loneliness factor. The third one is alone. So solitary, without company, companionless. And that one, I have to say, does not resonate with me because I would feel okay being solitary and companionless. I love having the folks around me that I hold dear, but I don't feel we keep the same amount of regard about whether or not we're whole and having to have a significant other to achieve that. So anyways, that's kind of my quick walkthrough on the idea of loneliness. I'm going to probably post something tomorrow as well, but thanks so much. And as always, if you have a video request, please put it in the comment section. Thanks.